Here we are with the second half of me with my new blades that I've ended up picking up. This one is going to be very TwoSun heavy. There is another one that I have here from White Mountain Knives that I will unbox during the later part of the video. But yeah, y'all know me and my my collection of TwoSuns. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with this one. This one is a little bit bigger than I was first anticipating. This is the TS342. The official name of this is the Matrix. It's a Jelly Jerry design. We got a little bit of an inset thumb stud, flat on top, but that works out great for me. And also a front flipper. This is a very gradual drop point blade. Really nice broad blade on this. Ground pretty thin, but still just a little bit thicker to have it be a little bit more robust, but that's perfectly fine with me, especially for the size of this thing here. Something very interesting about this thing is kind of taking a look at it. For one, we do have their lightning strike anno that they have on this front piece of titanium, but you can also see that that's bordered by some carbon fiber, and we have a little ring of the titanium and then a little plug on the inside there of carbon fiber. And then we flip it over to the other side and we see that that's basically reversed. We have a titanium lining here and then carbon fiber here, with that titanium that was on the bottom over here moving up top. So yeah, it's they're asymmetrical, or they've just reversed from the other side. Really striking to look at, that's for sure. This one in particular seems to be a little bit more yellowish in the particular color pattern that's on the larger section here. The back one here has a bit more purple, which is what I've seen from other TwoSuns now that use that. And bam, you use that thumb stud and this thing comes rocketing out. I really like this thing quite a bit. Like I said, I did think it was much smaller. In my thoughts, let's see if I can pull out the one that I was thinking of. Yeah, here we go. Because of that thumb stud, it reminded me a lot of the TS219, or sorry, 216, the Live Bird. Which this one's quite a smaller knife in comparison here, but a decent amount of comparisons can be made with that notch out for the thumb stud. Same basic general shape. This one is a bit more of a compound grind, so it's much thicker behind the tip than this one in particular. But yeah, this one also has a wire clip. That was something that was different, and surprised I haven't seen it on some more TwoSun since. But yeah, this thing, I do want to do a review on this thing fairly soon. This thing is really interesting in its construction on the inside. Just looking at this on the outside, they had to do some other creative things on the inside to make all of that end up happening and still be, super nice and cohesive and rigid and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's the first one I got up. TS342 Matrix. Let's see. At that same time, I got this guy here. This is another one in their Lightning Strike Anno. This is the TS363 Dash Color. This is a RYHI design, and this one is, it's a little interesting. It might not be my absolute favorite one from them, and it's got some things that I do want to mention on here. For one, this is an inset steel liner lock, but with titanium scales on there. I don't particularly mind that, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, why didn't you just make it a frame lock? You already had all the material there. So yeah, there's that, I suppose. This thing has a really, really nice action to it. But there's a lot of blade here. You can see we have a saber grind on this, and this is ground for much harder use than I would have initially thought. So it's not exactly thin behind the edge there. But I suppose it has maybe a little harpoonish kind of thing in there. For me, I can easily get that in that groove there with my index finger to do that, but I honestly don't think that was the original intent there because, well, my hands are fairly large and long, so probably most normal people wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe if they scooted up a little bit more towards them. I don't know. Either way, yeah, it's interesting. This is in D2. As is this one. Interesting that they have a few jimp sort of things, but that creeps down onto the blades. That's a little design interest going on there. I will say that because they highly polish their titanium on these guys, they're a lot more slick than a standard titanium frame lock that actually has a little tiny bit of texture going on here. So this one feels like if you've ever had a steel bar of soap, usually used for pulling some negatively charged ions off of your hands from like garlic and stuff like that in the kitchen. This is just like that, super nice and slick, which is probably a downside for someone who plans on daily driving something like this. But because of that, they do also have a standard variant of it in the standard gray that you can do basically whatever you want with it. The other thing that I wanted to mention on this is the pocket clip here basically ends here. So you have like at least an inch sticking out of your pocket here. And that's, I mean, I don't necessarily like deep carry clips, but this is just way too much knife sticking out of the top here. I think they probably could have pushed this pocket clip much farther back, probably integrated it with this Chicago screw here, or pushed it even further back or something like that. But I don't know. They were looking to match that curve with these lines here that mimic the other side of the blade stuff there. It's an interesting design. Like I said, not my favorite from RYHI, but that's perfectly okay. Let's see, and then a few days later, I ended up getting another couple of them. I'll cover this one here first. This I end up calling the billboard design. This is a RYHI knife. I had originally thought that this was in titanium, and I will get to why, but I wasn't technically wrong in that, but I was in my assumption. So, this is Peel Ply G10. We have black underneath, and then that Peel Ply is basically a tan color on the top of there. It really makes the engraving pop. But yeah, this is almost SOG levels of billboarding, a little bit more than they've done in the past. And because of that, I'm sure there's going to be a large majority of people who probably are going to pass this one up. This is a double detent, and it's the first one TwoSun's done that was not in collaboration with YX Designs, also known as Yon Xanadu. And this one is basically a back flipper only. It doesn't have much in the way of a top flipper. You can kind of. It has a little bit of jimping there, but I think it'd be a little bit more comfortable if they did extend it a little bit more. But yeah, open this guy up. And very simple drop point design here. It's also in D2. This is the TS342. This is the 363. Both of them right here. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So you can play around with that quite a bit. Works out all right. I do hear a little bit of, and can kind of feel that satin finish basically on both of the detents that it has to rub on the blade there. But that being said, as you can see, I can, well, if I'm not an idiot, I can play around with that all day long and it works out fine. So there we go with that. Now, what I was mentioning earlier of I wasn't technically wrong is this is a G10, but these liners here are titanium. They don't have any magnetization, or yeah, they're not ferrous. They don't have any effect on a magnet when a magnet's slapped up on them. And because the only interface that's actually happening with the blade is on the two ceramic detent balls on both sides, they didn't really have to worry about any of the hardened steel inserts or any of that sort of stuff. So that does take the weight down just a little bit in here. This is more of a budgetish style knife, so they don't really have any extra skeletonization or weight relieving going on the inside. It's not super heavy, but yeah, it's still pretty neat. Because it doesn't have that flipper though, as a lot of double detents tend to have, yeah, you can end up biting yourself if you're not careful with it. So if you're not used to using slip joints or other non-locking knives, you might want to get a little practice in with something like this before you end up daily driving it. No pocket clip on this thing either. Basically, that screw on the inside of both of those are the other attachment points for the titanium liners there on the back. And something that I understand the reason and everything for it, for the lanyard kind of hole slot, whatever the hell you want to call that one, since it's larger than most. But you know, something like this, I could also understand someone wanting to use that a little bit more, unless you're actually carrying it on a pouch outside of your pocket. But still, kind of an interesting design. I'm not sad that I have it, but like I said, at first I did think that this was titanium on the outside. But alright, yep, okay. And then the other TwoSun that I got at the same time is this one, and this has a lot of neat stuff going on here. This is another Keanu, as we can see here. The other one that they did was the TS342, which was this ridiculous huge, it almost looks like a Tonto, but the ramp up to that last tip there is so short that it's almost just basically a chisel kind of thing. This one's a little bit more subdued and more knife-like. It's a button lock. It's riding on single row bearings on this one in particular here, but you can still see, yeah, this thing swings in the breeze with the best of them when the button lock is not engaged with it. This is titanium through and through. We do have a D2 blade on this one, stone-washed. Looks like I got number 11. That's kind of neat that they're numbering these things here. And yeah, I really, really like this thing. It's thicker than I initially thought that this thing was. I suppose if it was a little thinner, just this kind of shape and everything does remind me at least a little bit of some Chris Reeve sort of stuff in there. Maybe a little mix between the Menandi and the Sebenza or something like that. But obviously this is completely its own different beast. Let's see if I can... I'll pull out a flashlight for it. On the inside, we can also see it's heavily pocketed to remove some weight. This thing is still heavy. It's still like 5.4 ounces, so it's not a lightweight by any means. But if they didn't do that skeletonization or weight relieving stuff on the inside there, this thing would probably be easily 7 ounces or so. What some people probably aren't going to like is this is a button deploy only, or I do suppose you can break that detent with your fingers and swing that out there. For me, that reminds me a lot of the button lock Elementum here. However, the button lock Elementum locks closed, whereas this one just has that single detent. But still, it's basically the only deployment method that that knife has. I have already seen one or two people basically take a notch out here or something, somewhere right around there, and put one of those clamping thumb studs like you can get for some like buck 110s and stuff like that, to have a thumb stud on the front there. That's okay, but I'm mostly going to end up using a button centrifugal deployment if I have one at my disposal here. Yeah, and the millwork on the handle, quite nice and deep. This has a lot of grip, but it's not sharp. They really kind of matched exactly what I want out of that. So it's not super grippy. It's not going to tear up your fingers, but it holds on to them, and that's fantastic. And the other thing I wanted to cover with this guy in particular here, as you can see here, We do have a titanium clip on here, as we do on most TwoSuns these days. However, this one is not a titanium milled clip, but actually a basically stamped and rounded clip. But you can swap that over to the left side / offhand carry. And I absolutely appreciate the ability to do that. Not only for the 10% of the population out there who is a lefty, but I also do like to carry a knife on my offhand. And to do that, I need a clip to be able to go on the other side there. And for a long time, that's been a Cold Steel Recon 1. But I do think I'll probably end up swapping over to this. Yeah. We got a nicely done plunge grind here. Not super sharp, but still plenty before we get out to the edge. I've already sharpened this one. And this one has some nice slicing geometry on it. So, yeah. And one other TwoSun that I have here that I got independent of the rest of them here. This is a Wong design. I don't even have this one labeled yet, but luckily it has it on the blade. This is a TS342. This is also in D2. This is basically titanium liners, and what I thought originally was titanium anodized gold on the outside of them. However, once I've actually taken this apart, these gold pieces are way heavier than the titanium liners that have more mass than them. That does make me think that these are actually brass that's been sandblasted, which is kind of interesting. You can see definitely it has a sandblast there. I already have basically one kind of snail trail going on there. But this thing, even though it's about as neutral as it comes, with these nice wide jumps on here, this just locks into my hand. I might be a little bit worried about it sliding super forward or something like that, but hey, we have some more jumps up here too. Besides that, this blade is so goddamn stabby. I had the time of my life just going to town on some cardboard. Just, yeah, it feels satisfying to do that. So I guess this would kind of satisfy some of them rednecks would probably call it a pig sticker or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of good fun. It has fullers on both sides, but I can't really access them when it's closed. Maybe if you had a nail or a toothpick or something like that grafted onto the end of your middle finger, maybe you could. I don't know, you do you, but for me, that's not going to happen. This one doesn't have jimping up top here. I kind of thought that it was going to be more Higo no Kami-ish like the 386. But no, this one ends up being super nice and flush with the top there. Just extremely clean lines going on here. Yeah, it has the fullers there. It's not exclusive to Ray Laconico, but it is a little bit more of his signature style going on there. The pocket clip on this, really stiff. It goes into the pocket decent enough because the flat portion is basically slanted on here and easy enough to get in and out. But if you are dealing with some thicker pant material, you might have some problems going on there. And this one, the grind on it is a little bit harder use, but I suppose that does make sense with the pokey kind of characteristics on this. This is a little bit more tactical than some others are. But still, did a fantastic job with the sharpening choil here, where the plunge grind ends there. You got a lot of room to sharpen up without having any problems there. This one is heavy though, and that's definitely due to these brass onlays. They're not inlaid into the titanium at all. And that's kind of nice because that means that they had much more ability to weight relieve the inside of the titanium there. But yeah, this one's really fun to play around with. Maybe not practical for EDC, but it's still buckets of fun. So yeah. All right, so I have a Kaiser in here, or at least I do believe it's a Kaiser, and I'm going to go ahead and do the unboxing of that. For this one, I'm going to use the Mercenary MK01. Why? Well, because I just finished sharpening it, and it's sitting on my table here because I just recently did the other one. So yeah, I'll go ahead and open this because I have my addressed information on the other side there that I don't particularly want to share with the general public. So once I just get this guy open here, yeah, we got their nice edible, or you know, they dissolve in water, but I suppose it's not food grade, but you can eat them. Packing peanuts, and we got the Kaiser here, and yeah, they do consider this to be a not Vagrant, what are the Vanguard series. But this is a pretty upscale one. Well, maybe not the absolute most upscale, but all right. Yay! We have here a Cormorant XL. This is basically the Cormorant that has been a fairly popular design recently. This has black and white G10 on there. They did a really good job on that white G10 too. I like that. This has basically all the deployment methods you could probably ever imagine. You got the hole that you can slow roll this thing out on, and reverse flick that. We also have a front flipper capability going on here, and of course the back. And if you want, you can just use the button lock for that. This one's a little bit larger than the original one, which is why I ended up pulling the trigger on this one. At least this particular variant is a White Mountain Knives exclusive, but I don't think the Cormorant XL as a whole is an exclusive, so there might be a little bit more fancier versions that come out with maybe some different steel and different handle options and stuff like that. What does make this one a little bit different is it's not using S35VN, it's using CPM3V. So that, of course, made me want to pick it up. I've enjoyed some other knives that I've had in 3V. Yeah, and this one also has a nice hollow grind to it. And that still comes down to a nice thin edge behind that hollow grind. It's not super thick behind there. Which is probably something that you do kind of need a little bit more of a super steel like S35 or 3V to take care of. I guess if I had my choice, I would have gone with 4V over 3V, but I think maybe now that I've seen how thin this hollow grind is behind there, I'm glad to have that extra toughness from 3V over 4V. There you go. This has a whole bunch of grip on that top G10, that peel ply texture. And this has that 2X design going on here. We got the pocket clip, which nice. We can swap that over there. And just a couple of barrels in the back there. I suppose it can flex just a little tiny bit if you are ridiculously squeezing on it. But yeah, it doesn't feel anywhere near like an original Benchmade bug out. And I like how much jimping we got on here. A whole bunch back here, including that ramp up there. That feels super nice if I'm going to do any kind of piercing cuts. I feel super in control from both sides there. But you can also choke up quite a bit here. We have a decent amount of a finger choil that goes along with the blade there. And a whole bunch of jimping on top in case I want to apply a whole bunch of pressure to this area here. I can definitely do that. And of course, this isn't going to mean a darn thing for for sharpness or anything like that. But yeah, this is neat. I do like this. They do. White Mountain also has another variant of the original Cormorant that's available at the moment in titanium. It's not the frag pattern, but it is using basically the same, but not the same steel. I think it's using M390, whereas the standard one uses 20 CV, which for all intents and purposes is the same steel, it's just made by a different company. So that's kind of interesting, but hey, at least it keeps the stuff fresh. Yeah, I do like this thing quite a bit. It's nice. Should be a fun knife to play around with. Since I did just open this one up, and it's essentially the only one that I haven't put an edge on or anything, I can go ahead and just do the cut test here for this one particular one, and then I can go ahead and call it for the video. I always want to tighten the side that the thread comes up through so that it leaves that exposed thread nice and taut rather than having a whole bunch of slack going on with it. Alright. Let's see. I can turn the light on. That might help you out a little bit as far as seeing things. Okay. What do we got, Kaiser? $300 ain't great, so I can definitely improve that a lot. So I will definitely go ahead and do that. Ooh, there was a little bit of lockstep. That's interesting. Can't reproduce it, so I don't know exactly what ended up happening there. But either way, because of that, it'll probably break in after I play around with it a little bit. Yeah, this thing's neat. And because it is larger, I do feel much more comfortable in my preferred grip, which is a little bit further back than some people who really, really like to sneak up on them. So in that way, I can still get a nice full 4-finger grip, or 3 3/4, pretty close to it at least, gripping it way back here. Nice. All right, well, that concludes the gigantic amount of knives that I have picked up recently. I still have some more on the way. There's I think 2 TwoSuns that are pretty close to me that are fairly new that I'm going to get. There's also a Spyderco Shaman and S90V and burlap micarta from Knife Center. That should be coming to me in the next couple of weeks. Stupid but fun fact, that at $238 is now the most expensive knife that I will own. So there's that. I've had some others that I paid I don't know, somewhere close to $200 for, but yeah, that's going to take the cake over. Essentially, I think maybe the PM2 that I ended up spending, I don't remember, $219 maybe on this guy in Crewwear. Hell, I don't know. But either way, that's interesting. They were like $238, which was kind of neat because they were only a few dollars, like less than $10 more than a stock one, but with some different handle material, and of course S90V over S30V. So yeah, it sounded like a fun time. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yes, I will now shut the hell up and let you get on with the rest of your day, whereas I'm going to get on with the rest of my day and put some edges on a couple of these guys that I haven't gotten to yet. So, alrighty. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, especially if you made it this far. This one was a long one. And have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe if you want.